hello, and welcome to the Voice with Action podcast. I am here with Michelle Toukan, and had the opportunity to interview her father last week about the Christopher Freedom Center, and this is a part 2 to that. So this is Christopher's sister, Michelle, and Michelle she just finished her training today for the skeleton. She's a part of the national skeleton team. She is an Olympic hopeful. So she is taking a break from her training so that she can talk to me. So I'm really excited for this time that we have together.
Hey, Deb. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Just got done sprinting and lifting today. We do a lot of what would be like weightlifting training and like a track athlete sprints. We do a lot of that in the summer when we don't have ice, because bobsled skeleton is a winter ice sliding sport.
Yeah. So where are you? I'm just, for curious audience members, where do you do your training in the summer?
Yeah, so in the summer, I'm in Lake Placid, New York, which is upstate New York. It's beautiful here, a small little town where the 1980 Olympics were. So the bobsled track has been redone since the 80s, but we still have a bobsled track here, so we train here. We do have another bobsled skeleton track in Park City, Utah. So I do a lot of training out there as well. But in the summer, our coaches are based out here in Lake Placid. So get to enjoy beautiful upstate New York.
Wow. Well, how did you then have time to take a break from your intense training and travel to West Africa with Orphan Relief and Rescue? How'd that work out?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a big ask. My dad asked me last year, like, hey, the ribbon cutting is happening. This building is getting put up. Like, can you go? And I mean, I said yes right away, but I was like, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get my coaches to be on board with this. But luckily, we went about 6 weeks ago. So it was kind of in a break of my training, which was nice. But I was a little bit nervous. Being a athlete, I train every day. I'm doing something for my physical body. So taking a week off to travel to West Africa was a little bit hard. It was a hard sacrifice, but it really, really blessed me inside. And I had one of my best sprint tests ever the 2 weeks after I traveled back from West Africa. So just incredible to feel so physically fit right now as we're going into Olympic season. So I'm trying to make the Olympic Games in February of 2026. They'll be in Italy. So yeah, everything that I do right now is kind of focused towards that. But taking a break and traveling to West Africa was incredible.
Wow. Well, I'd love to hear. So we were kind of talking off air about what this building meant to you. And so I'm curious what that process was like for you to see this building that was dedicated in memory of your brother.
Yeah, so Papa Mike talked about it last week on air. If you haven't heard that episode, go back an episode and listen to that. His story is pretty awesome, because my dad has definitely a different view of kind of what's going on there in West Africa. And my dad really feels strongly about the kids that we're helping. For me, the building was such an important piece of this journey for us and our family. So about a year ago, my dad called and said, hey, we're thinking about selling this piece of land where I grew up. So a few years prior to that, my parents sold their house, like my childhood home where I grew up with my brother, and they moved to Louisiana. So they kind of retired and moved on, but we still had this piece of land in Nebraska. And Dad called me and said, hey, do you want this piece of land? Like, this is kind of your inheritance. We've held on to it for you because I grew up there with my brother. And Deb, it was really always my dream to go back there and live there. And so it was really hard for just that conversation. I kind of knew that my parents had moved on and we didn't really have much in Nebraska. Our family lives elsewhere, but this piece of land where I grew up, my brother and I used to ride motorcycles there. We used to have forts on, I just have so many beautiful memories there. But my memories are just memories at this point. And we were kind of holding on to that piece of land as, oh, someday I think I'll want to go back there. And so a year ago when Dad called me, it's like, okay, we're selling this land. I was like, okay, I'm okay with it. Like, I think those memories are dead. And I think that that's all I'm holding on to are these memories. And I have other opportunities in my life. I mean, I travel 6 months out of the year across Europe for training and competitions. So I'm just not in the spot in my life to go utilize that land. So we decided to sell it. And then Dad went to West Africa last year. And this was about a month after we decided to sell the land. And Dad was trying to kind of pursue options for what to do with, some of the money. He needed to invest it in something. So we were having conversations, but after he got back from West Africa, he called my mom and I and said, hey, we have a really, really cool opportunity to help a lot of people by building a community freedom center. And Mom was like, yep. And I'm like, yep, let's do it. Like, that is the most beautiful thing that we could do with this money, turning the land into something like that. So that was kind of the backstory of the process that I had to go through to see this building come into fruition. For me, it wasn't, oh, we're just donating some money. It was a really big release of something, saying, okay, I'm okay with that being not a part of our lives anymore.
So was there anything that surprised you when you actually got to see the land? You have this that you all purchased for this Freedom Center and see it come to fruition. Was there anything about that actually physically being there, seeing that surprised you?
Yeah, I had kind of built it up in my head, Deb, and I think, part of my grief journey throughout, my brother passed away when we were in middle school. He was 14, I was 13. I mean, it was just such a hard time in my even just development as a middle school girl anyway, but then losing someone so close to me, and my brother and I were best friends, so that grief journey has been really hard. And I've always kind of thought there has to be this moment that's big enough to honor my brother's death, but nothing seems big enough. We've done kind of memorials, and we did, services and, different types of things throughout my adolescent years growing up to kind of do tributes, but nothing kind of felt big enough. So I was a little bit worried too, Deb. I was like, is this big enough? If this is me kind of putting to rest my memories of my brother, is it good enough? So I think I had a lot of kind of battling some of that going into seeing the building. But what was really special is we were able to go out to where this building is a few different times during my trip in West Africa. So I didn't just have this one moment where everything had to be perfect. And the Lord really blessed me by giving me multiple opportunities to be at this building in the center. But the very first day that we went, so I kind of have this built up in my mind, it's got to be this perfect thing, or event, which it didn't really turn out that way. But what was special is when we first walked up to the building, there wasn't a ton of people around yet. There were some community members kind of milling about, but it gave me just a little bit of a moment of space. And I just wanted to touch this building, that was so important to me, because we had given, I had given up this piece of land to have this new piece of land in this building. So yeah, touching the building for me, it was almost like my memories were going into this building. But also there was something about seeing these people just kind of milling about this community center. It's this is alive. These people are using this community center in so many different ways. And Mike kind of shared about the different ways that the community centers are being used. So being able to touch this building just felt like this emotional release for me of oh my gosh, this building is alive. And I kind of replaced my dead memories with something that's actually alive. So that was a really, really special moment. And it was just, a moment or two. And then we had to go into the community center, and people were starting to come because there was a feeding program that day. And we were able to see that feeding program and pray over people. So I kind of had my moment, and then it was okay, I'm here to serve these people. And that was so beautiful too, because it gave me this moment to have my grief. And then it was service time, which was incredible, right? So we served all week in different kind of ways. And then we actually had the ribbon cutting ceremony on our last day of our trip in West Africa. So that was really cool too, because it gave us time. I served the whole time. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, my moment for me is at the end.
Wow. I love how you describe it, where you had these memories of this land, holding on to those memories, but then actually almost in a sense being able to release those memories into this property that is alive and flourishing and people are using it. And you weren't sure about that land in Nebraska, if you would even be able to create new memories there. So it is kind of like your memories, even of your brother, aren't dying, but it is like this passing of the baton in a sense, like from one life to the next and for generations to come. Like, I just think that's it's beautiful imagery. Like, that's a beautiful picture of even just how God works, something that was death and grieving and pain then is being passed to this new life. Like, I just feel like there are huge spiritual dimensions of that and that those memories, they're not necessarily dead, but it's more like the memory of that, of the life and the love can be passed on, to someone else. And it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. So what are some of the stories that you said you had some stories when you were at the Freedom Center, when you were doing ministry? I'd love to hear some of the stories.
Yeah. So at the Freedom Center on the day, we actually did a ribbon cutting ceremony, and I was just so blessed by that too, because like I said, it was at the end of our trip. So we had, just great time serving people. I mean, it was hard, we were serving each day in the villages and then going back and doing sports camp and Bible study with the orphanage kids during the afternoons. So it was very, very emotionally, mentally, physically taxing the whole week. But I was really looking forward to this ribbon cutting ceremony because my dad and I actually shared together just kind of our story. And it was really awesome and touching. But part of me was nervous. I'm like, what can I even say to connect with these people in West Africa? I mean, I'm from literally a different world and, doing professional sports, and like, what can I say to like, that will actually help these people or connect with them? And I prayed, and a few people on our team prayed for me before we went. I was like, I really want to connect. I want to connect with someone, if it's just one person, that's okay. Like, I just want to connect. And, when we're talking obviously with a translator. Like, the people in the villages speak tribal languages. So that's also like a little bit hard too, and something I'm not used to. But, I was able to share. So my dad and I shared at first, and my dad shared a little bit about forgiving some of the older boys that were with my brother during this snowboarding accident. And that was really incredible to hear my dad speak of that. And I feel like that really worked in my heart too. Just hearing him share his story gave me like strength to share my story. And when I was sharing, I shared, about when I was young. I mean, when you're 13 years old, I remember Deb praying a few days before I went on the ski trip, like thanking God for my family, thanking God for everything he had given me. Like, I was so blessed. I was going on this ski trip. And then a few days later, my brother didn't come home. And as I was sharing that, it was like, during that time, I just asked God, help me get through one day. Like, I just need to get through one day at a time. But as I was standing there speaking, and I shared this with these people, I see the people of this community, like, this is the reason, this is the redemption story, right? This is my brother's life at work. Even now, even today, 19 years later, he hasn't been alive for 19 years, but this story is still, like, Christ is still redeeming people through the life of my brother. And being able to share that, there were some women in the front just on the edge of their seats, I feel like listening to me. And I was like, okay, God, I think they're hearing you. And that was my goal. I just wanted them to hear why, I pursue elite athletics. Like, I want to use every single day to the maximum, right? Like, I want to pursue just being the best version of me because Christ gave me life. And being able to share that with them, like, seeing, okay, this is redemption. Like, this is who I am, and this is why I'm here and why we're here. we care about this community so much.
Wow. What's the story of the little girl?
Yeah. So after Dad and I talked, we did like a little ribbon cutting, and then we had this dance party, which in my mind, this is what I could not wait for. I love dancing. So I was so excited. I'm like, we better have a dance party at this ribbon cutting. And we did. So thanks, Rebecca, for putting that together. But we're dancing, and this girl comes up to me, and there's lots of people. I mean, 150. I mean, there was like lots of people, lots of kids, everybody trying to, get to the front to dance. And this girl walks by me, and she goes, "I want to dance with you." And she grabs my arm. And I was like, okay. Not thinking in my head, like, this girl's speaking English. Weird, because no one speaks English. But she said that to me. I'm like, okay, but I'm trying to follow the festivities. So we're all dancing. So her and I are dancing together. And she, in West Africa, they kind of do a beautiful call and response. So they pass the mic around, and somebody's, saying something, and we all repeat it. And it was beautiful. So she had the mic at one point, and she and I were dancing together. It was just so beautiful. And afterwards, so we prayed for people after that. And after that, she found me and says, "How am I going to remember you?" And I still am not like, how is she speaking to me? And I'm like, oh, I have this little toucan bird keychain on my little pouch. So I took off my keychain and gave it to her. I said, "You are a warrior. You are so strong. This community needs you here." And I don't know if she fully understood me, but just kind of spoke a blessing over her. And then at the end, so then there was a feeding program. So we're kind of milling about. And I was like, oh, I need to go take a picture of the outside of the building. And I did a prayer walk too, around the building. Mm-hmm. And as I was finishing that, she comes up to me one more time and she says, "Hey, my sister isn't here anymore. I lost my sister. And your words just spoke to me." And I was like, how are you speaking to me? Finally it dawns on me that she's speaking English, and I'm holding her. She goes, my brother taught me. He went to school, and he taught me how to speak English. And it was just such a beautiful gift from God that someone was there that was so touched by my story. And it's that transcends continents, that transcends languages.
Yeah.
This little girl and I shared this similar experience. And, I also said that when I was speaking, I was like, you and I speak different languages, but grief is the same language. I mean, our sorrow, I could see it in people's eyes, the sorrow and grief that they've sustained. So it was so beautiful. That was my biggest gift from God, to have this sweet girl share her story with me. But it was so cool because she didn't do it at the first time she saw me, right? She saw me a few times, and then she felt compelled or led to do that. So to me, it's we have to really pour into people's lives. We can't just expect that people are going to open up and share with us. And this little girl reminded me of myself when I was young and going through my grief journey, because I was, throughout high school, I wore all black t-shirts. I was so closed off and dead inside because I was so sad, I was grieving. And in my heart, I knew that God existed and he wanted good for us. I never turned away from that part of my faith, but there was some piece of my heart that didn't really believe that redemption could happen and that I could be free to live so fully, I think.
Wow.
And something happened, during my time in Africa that I feel I got some of my light back into me. And it's interesting, Deb, because it wasn't these moments that we had there were so beautiful, but I always thought oh, the moment has to be big enough. But really what I walked away with is the moments are living. These are living moments. These people that impacted me so much are alive. That's their life down there, is their community. And we were able to invest in something that's living, that's alive, that's breathing. And that is the biggest tribute to my brother And like I said, his life, my mom would always say to me, Chris is alive in heaven. And for me, I just could not I couldn't understand that. I mean, I understand it, but I can't picture it,
Yeah.
And I feel like after this experience in Africa, I can picture him alive. Like I can picture him alive, and I can picture what it might be like when we're in heaven together. And these people from this community are there with us. And that is like kind of too big for words, to be honest. But I feel like that's the light that I'm now able to live with. And I always wanted to live with that before. But I feel like now I can really live with that excitement of knowing that, we're impacting communities.
How does that light, the word light, like translate into the word hope? Where does your hope lie?
Definitely in Jesus. Deb, I think even when I was young, I knew that Jesus was the only way. Like putting my faith in Jesus would be the only way that I could see my brother again, and as an adult, I think it gives me hope that no matter what the circumstances are, like Christ wants to give us hope, and he wants to redeem us. He wants to redeem our lives. He wants to redeem us to himself, and that's been something that I've really taken away from Africa. And there it was so visceral, everything is so visceral there. The need, right? For number one, like these people need so much, and seeing that, and then seeing how people who do have faith in God there, how they have to fully rely on God for everything and all their needs, medical, spiritual, financial, like everything. I feel like the people of faith there are taking to God, and taking that into my own life back at home, where I'm surrounded by so much. I don't have a lot of physical needs, right? Where I'm training, I've been blessed to have such a good sporting background that I'm taken care of. My physical needs are very well taken care of. But I've been able to really lean onto God to say, I want to rely on you, God, for more. Because we needed that in Africa. I still need that here, right?
Yeah. I'm curious, because you are a very passionate person that lives life for each day. So I'm curious, so what motivated you to be, an elite athlete? And then, first, my first question is prior to going to Africa, what motivated you to be an elite athlete?
That's an interesting question. I feel like it's a little bit twofold. When I was little, I was a gymnast. I was a really good gymnast. And 3 months before my brother passed away, I told my parents I didn't want to do gymnastics anymore. And it was out of the blue. My mom was like, "Are you sure? Like, you've put everything into this. You've always wanted to do this." But I was very adamant. Like I was having anxiety. And as a kid, I couldn't really put it into words. But so I quit gymnastics, and those next 3 months were like the best months that I had with my brother. I mean, we were able, because I wasn't training so much, we were able to just really spend time together. So that was incredible. And one of our last memories actually together too is, snowboarding. Like that was our favorite thing to do together. But before we went on this snowboarding trip, we were watching the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, and like kind of making fun of, because there was these crazy dancers, and we're like, what is going on? Like, so I just remember laughing together about these opening ceremony dancers. So I feel like the Olympic spirit has always been something that I've been driven towards. Like if I want to do something, I want to be all in. And I had a great track and field career. I was a track and field athlete in college, really, really good, but not good enough to be professional, and kind of found bobsled skeleton after that. And I've just kind of always been an athlete. It's always been something that I pursued. I think God gave that to me to help me grieve. It kept me, being an athlete kept me from kind of falling into bad habits, bad patterns. It really kept me on a good path throughout my adolescence and through college. And so I think that's one thing, is I was like, okay, the Olympic spirit's always been there. And, my brother and I always talked about, being snowboard bums. We're like, oh, we're in middle school. You're like, we want to grow up, live in a ski town, just hang out. Like, wouldn't that be incredible? And the other day I thought about it. I was like, I've traveled the world for 8 years and lived in these little ski towns in Norway and South Korea and Germany and Switzerland. Like, I've lived in ski towns for the past 8 years. And I feel like just trying to follow our dream, and live it out.
Oh. I love hearing about just part of who you are today. So much of that was birthed out of the relationship with your brother and, the passions that the two of you shared. So I'm then curious now, after going to West Africa and kind of experiencing almost this release, this life, this hope, how do you see that fueling your future and bringing these dreams to fruition for your own heart in your own life?
Yeah, I think after our trip, a weight was kind of lifted that, like, I have to do it perfect or I have to do it right. Like, I don't feel now like I have to be doing skeleton and doing this sport to, like, for my life to matter and be good enough. I think there was really something during that trip that showed me, like, it kind of doesn't matter where you're at. Like, if you're in Africa serving at the orphanage, or if I'm in Lake Placid at the Olympic Training Center serving people around me, service has always been something that I'm a very empathetic person. I love to serve people. So that's always been, part of me. But I think I just see it more clearly now that it's like God's going to tell me where he wants me to go and who he wants me to serve. And I have such an incredible opportunity with the people that I'm around right now, to serve them and to bring joy and, obviously train and compete and do the best that I can physically. But I'm always, serving people and looking for ways that I can be a help to other people around me. But it's honestly, Deb, I feel like it's the weight that I was feeling before my trip to Africa was like, it has to be perfect and I have to get it right, or else God will be disappointed, or my brother's memory will be disappointed. Like, I never really thought, oh, my brother will be disappointed in me, but it's like the memory of him. I don't want that to be disappointed in me.
Yeah, you carried like a responsibility that, so it sounds like it's like a huge identity piece, which is amazing. Like, to kind of, your identity is not just in, oh, am I going to do the skeleton perfectly, or, fulfill this dream on behalf of my brother. That's not the core of who you are. The core of who you are is, you are a very gifted athlete that has passion, and it's beautiful what you do. But then you also have this heart of service, and it's whoever's in front of you. Like, you have this gift of living for the day. You have a gift of really living life to the fullest. And how do you do that with the people that God puts in front of you and around you, and encourage them? And it's a beautiful identity piece. I love it. So were there any other stories that come to mind that you'd love to share before we close out this podcast?
I'll tell you a few maybe. So one I did want to talk about too is there is a woman who does a church service at Christopher's Community Center. And I was able to speak to her a little bit and, thank her for the work that she's doing, because the community center does so many incredible things. Like, they have different kinds of programs, but, the work that this woman and the other country pastors are doing there, that's bringing the real hope, like the hope of Jesus. She is bringing that to them. So I was able to tell her that I pray for her every Sunday. So for the last 6 weeks, I've prayed every Sunday. And it's just again, like, that's me. This is living. Like, I went to Africa, I left. Hopefully I'll go back, but I'm there and then gone. But God's work is still happening there. And it makes me feel so alive and close to that as I'm praying for that work that's happening. So that was a really special moment too, to just be able to connect with this woman and pray blessings over her and just kind of see her light up. Like, yes, I've got this. That was something that was really special in Africa, just praying over each other. I felt kind of some of the women that were translators that we prayed together with was so beautiful too, because it's like, we are sisters in Christ. Like, we are lifting each other up. We're doing hard work. It's not always easy. Like, Lord knows it's not always easy, but we can take that to God, and God can take those burdens from us. And I feel like praying for each other is something that I've really brought back to my community here at home, that I kind of learned in Africa. I mean, I've always prayed before, but just kind of like believing in that power and praying over each other was something that I hadn't done a lot of before. And it's really special to bring back and do in my more daily life.
Yes, your gift of encouragement. You have a real gift of encouragement.
Thank you, Deb. I did one other quick story. So there was one little guy that my boyfriend and I actually got to pray over this little one in one of the villages. And we didn't quite know what he wanted prayer for. He was a pretty little guy, and he wouldn't look us in the eyes. The translator was trying to get down on his level. My boyfriend was trying to get down on his level, and I was trying to hold his hand, but he was just very, kind of kept to himself, his body language. He wouldn't quite look at us, but he wanted prayer. And so my boyfriend prayed this prayer over him that was incredible, that he would grow up and be a man. And, he had so many responsibilities, and it was just really beautiful. And we were down kind of on his level. We had him sitting on a chair. And I didn't really notice until the end of the prayer, this little one was just leaning on me. Like, all of his weight is leaning onto me. It was like, at first he wouldn't even hardly let us touch him, but through that power of prayer, and I don't know what God was working through this little one, but this little guy was just laying, just all of his weight just on me. I was able to give him a big hug. And when we left, we always, drive the van out from these villages, and all the little kids are like running and, waving because they want to say goodbye. And I flashed a little heart to this little guy, and he like hearted me back, so that was just such a special, quick story about the power of prayer. And sometimes we don't even know, I'm not quite sure what God was working on in this little guy's heart, but obviously he had some demons, some big things going on. And I hope someday to figure out, what was going on in this little guy's heart. But yeah, it's real special.
I love it. Well, Michelle, I just love your heart in general. I love the light that truly does shine bright, very bright in you, and the encouragement that I believe that you bring to whoever crosses your path, wherever you touch your hands. I just feel like you have this light and gift of encouragement, and it's inspiring to hear how you live each day to the fullest and in memory and inspiration, of your brother. So it's been a privilege talking to you today, and thanks so much for your time. And we'll definitely get you on here again the next time you get to go to West Africa. Okay.
Thanks, Deb.
And I'll be watching you. I'm going to be watching you on the skeleton. I'm excited.
Very good. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Voice with Action podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you consider sharing or subscribing to this podcast and leave a 5-star review to help us grow? If you want to reach us or help us end child trafficking in West Africa, go to orphanreliefandrescue.org. That's orphanreliefandrescue.org. See you next week.